There we go. I see that Nick has shared a file. Oh, and Suresh shared the comment.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the example. That's the type of tracked meteor shower composite that Nick was talking about, where you basically track the region of the sky that contains the radiant, and then different meteors show up. You can align them just by blending them together.
Nick's very clever. He comes up with all that stuff.
Oh, there's so many fun things to do.
Is Nick on the call or did he go somewhere?
Oh, here's another one.
Yeah, Nick's still on the call. He's just on mute.
Oh,
So I know you're going to be talking about Photoshop.
Yes.
I use Affinity Photo, which has got stacking and alignment of stuff for astrophotography.
Okay.
And then there's a whole bunch of macros that have been set up for star size reduction and star luminosity reduction and background luminosity and uh, NXT and SXT, noise exterminator and star exterminator,
Hmm.
work for Affinity Photo as well, by the way.
Okay. Yeah,
oh, they
that
do.
sounds good.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Blur exterminator does not.
Because I know they have them for Photoshop and PixInsight, but it also works for Affinity Pro, huh?
Yeah, the Photoshop version of NXT and SXT work for Affinity Photo.
Cool.
Yeah, good to know. Yeah, I'm not familiar at all with Affinity, but hopefully you'll be able to see some connections. Well, Suresh, I'm ready anytime you want to pull the trigger.
Oh no, feel free. I was just hanging out.
Okay, well
Go ahead, Blake.
let's jump right into it then. I'm going to go ahead and turn my video back on for a second and say welcome. And I just wanted to at some point say and to acknowledge all the contributions that Suresh has given to this group. I mean, when I look at my email and he's doing the B6, he's doing this thing, I just want to make a special point to say thanks, Suresh, for all that you do, because I know it's a lot of work, and what's remarkable to me about it is it's very consistent. And it's one thing to,
Oh,
do
appreciate
something
it.
for a bit, but you're just very, very regular. And so, if there was an award out there for outstanding, outreach person, I would give it to you. So there's that.
Thanks. I
Yeah, no, I
appreciate
mean, I
that.
really mean that because it's a lot to do these things.
Well, it does help to have the people we have in our club and elsewhere that help out, the volunteers and people that do these presentations. So it's
Well,
definitely
yeah,
not one person. It's definitely a team effort.
yeah, but I think. But with that said, so I wanted to so a little just I thought I'd introduce myself a little bit so you know where I'm coming from. And I use Photoshop a lot. I've used it for a great number of years. And like most things, I use it for very specific things, and I do those specific things over and over again. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. And the main thing I want to share is more the conceptual, the logic behind why we use Photoshop for the things that we use it for. And my background is I'm much more of a landscape astrophotographer than a deep sky astrophotographer. I mean, I do a certain amount of deep sky stuff, but I mean, when I look at the stuff that this group posts, I mean, it's, world-class stuff. And, I'm not going to try to pretend that I come anywhere close to that. But there is some, I think, overlap between, what we do and what we use PixInsight for and what we use Photoshop for. So with that said, so I've given this talk on Photoshop a number of times, which is why I wanted to, volunteer to do that. And to start with, I have a green sheet of paper and an orange sheet of paper. And the thing that Photoshop does is it allows you to combine images in a way that most of the other Adobe, products doesn't. PixInsight certainly allows you to combine images mathematically as a bunch of different ways using pixel math and stuff. I'm not sure if PixInsight has the same flexibility in localized adjustments that Photoshop allows, and you guys can tell me that. But the basic thing here is I'm going to just imagine for a minute that these are the two images. You could have hundreds of images. I'm going to start off with two images, and I want to use Photoshop to combine them in some way. And the simplest way that one can imagine is there's something in this image that I want to include, but it's not in this image. And there's something in this image that I want to include, but it's not in this image. And I want to take pieces of them and put them together. And so what Photoshop does is it literally creates a virtual stack. So you stack the images. Again, I know this is kind of like old school stuff to you guys, so I apologize for that. But it's all about the visuals. So Photoshop allows you to create this stack. So you literally can put one image virtually on top of the other image inside of Photoshop, like so. And then you can do something to the top image that allows you to see through it to the bottom image. And the easiest way is I've got my scissors, and I'm going to cut a hole in this top layer like so. And Photoshop allows you to do this. Not with scissors, but with some other mechanisms that it has in place. So what you do then is you say, okay, I've got this layer, I've got my orange layer. I'm going to put my orange layer, and now I've cut a hole in it so I can see through the top layer. I can now see the bottom layer. That's what Photoshop does with layers, is it allows you to do things like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a bunch of examples of why you would want to do that. But keep this in mind, because this is the essential thing, is Photoshop allows you to take an image and remove part of it, among other things. And in doing so allows you to see the underlying layer. So Suresh, does that help?
Definitely. That helps to have that visual.
Okay.
So just like a layer in your example is like one of the sheets, and
Yeah,
you're able to mess with any of the sheets, and you can see them in the combined stack.
Correct. So that's exactly the right language. This is each one of these is a layer. This is a two-layer stack, and you can have, like I say, hundreds and hundreds of layers. Most of the time, I usually have 2 layers, maybe 3 or 4 layers max. But you have multiple layers, and you can combine them So they're basically like transparencies, and you're looking down through the transparencies. All right. So with that in mind, I think I'm just going to share my whole screen, because the tools in Photoshop that I want to show you, if I just share a Photoshop window, you can't see the top layer tools. I have a big monitor, so I hope that the part of the monitor that shows the actions can come through, but we'll find out here in just a second. So we're just going to share the whole desktop. There it is. And you can see all the stuff that's there. And I have Photoshop over here, and hopefully you can see these menus. This one says Photoshop, File, Edit, Image. Are those legible?
Kind of small.
Yeah, they're just fine for me.
I'm sure they're small. Hopefully they're not.
They're not that small. I'm on a 36-inch monitor.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
see.
Because this is, before I go much further, I mean, the other option, share.
I'll swap to my other monitor too, like Alan's doing.
Let's see. Yeah, the issue is if I just share the Photoshop window, it doesn't show. There's a menu above that isn't included in this. I know from past experience that's not helpful.
I can't speak for others, but what you were showing was just fine for me.
Okay.
But maybe not everybody has a 36-inch or 40-inch monitor or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just fine for me. I can read everything.
Okay. Can anyone not read it, I guess, would be a question. Because one option is I could go off my laptop. The only issue there would be I wouldn't be able to have as many things happening at the same time.
I can read it now. I put it on my big monitor.
Okay.
I can read it. I'll put my
Okay.
glasses on if I have to.
Okay.
Ooh, and you're
All
on a
right.
Mac as well. That's super.
All right. I'll tell you what, I just realized I don't need to have my, um, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm going to turn my video off to save bandwidth, and then we'll go back to this. All right. So let's start with these two image. Let's start with this image right here. I'm in Photoshop, and I'm going to arrange. There's two images here, side by side, and because I'm sharing my whole screen, I'm going to spread this out a little bit like so. And um, as these are two photographs taken from the same tripod position. You can see, the Hyades up here in the sky. This is at Gooseberry Falls State Park. And each one of these has a person spinning a light in a circle. This was doing it during an event a few years ago, moonlit night. And what I want to do is I'm going to use these two images as an example of as the orange piece of paper and the green piece of paper. And uh, this will be the same technique I used to create the HDR composite of the Orion Nebula, by the way. So that's just an example of this. But this is very easy to see, I think. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this over and over again in these examples, is so what I want to do is I want to create a single image that has all four of these globes showing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this, well, jumping around. One of Photoshop's features is that there's this pop-out window right here showing the layers. And these are the sheets of paper. So this is a sheet of paper right here, and this only has a single sheet of paper. So what we're going to do is we're going to select that entire image. So I'm going to choose from this. This is where I need that top layer, the top level menu. So select all, and hopefully you can see there's the so-called marching ants around the perimeter of this image.
See it.
And then I'm going to go to edit, copy. So now I've copied this image into the clipboard. I'm now going to go over to this image on the left and click on it. And it was a very small change, but this little thumbnail now is showing this image on the left. I'm going to go to edit, and very important, I'm about to hit paste, but before I do that, I want you to watch over here on the right, because it's going to create a second layer, basically. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. See that?
Right.
So now I have two layers. The top layer, and if you look, and both images appear the same. So the top, if you look, so now I'm actually going to close this image on the, no, I'm not going to close it because I want to refer to it. But ignore this image on the left now. I'm going to actually deselect that. So I'm going to go to select, deselect. So that's just it. I'm going to click on the image on the left. So everything that's happening is over on this image now. And there's these two layers, layer 1 and the background. If I click on the unlock, I have layer 1 and layer 0. And if I click on this eyeball next to layer 1, watch what happens on the left. 3, 2, 1, boom. We've turned off the visibility of the top layer, so we've made it invisible. So we're just seeing the bottom layer. I'm going to turn the top layer back on again. And now there's an opacity control. And I can decrease the opacity to, let's say, 50% roughly. And now I can see through it to where the bottom layer is. So in fact, I can grab this top layer and move it around. See that?
Mike, how did you? Sorry, I must have missed it. How did you get the two side by side like that to show your layers?
Great question. I skipped over that. So the first thing that I did is I opened up my two images. This is how you're probably seeing yours. I have two images as tabs, right? And I went
Yeah.
to Window, Arrange, Tile All Vertically. And if you choose that, then all the so I have these two windows open. So all the open windows then show up side by side. And then if I want to go to the normal, the default, as I go to Window, Arrange, Consolidate all to tabs. So now it's just like in a typical, like, Photoshop scenario, you have each tab up here in the upper left is representing an image. In fact, we can stick with that now because that might be the way to, so here is our, I can make this a little bit bigger now. Whoops. So now, whoops, come back here. Remember, our goal is to have a single image with all four globes showing. So I need to cut holes in the top, in this top layer to reveal the underneath layer, okay? And if I bring the opacity back to 100%, I'm just seeing the top layer. But I need to cut holes in this layer to show where the globes are. So I'm going to decrease the opacity so I know where I need to cut the holes. So I need to cut a hole over this globe and cut a hole over this globe. Well, how do I cut a hole in Photoshop with the scissors? This is where this is what Photoshop does. It's right here. Is there's a number of ways of doing it, but if you look down here at the bottom, there's a little square rectangle, little white rectangle with a hole in it. Guess what that looks like? This. Okay. So that was my drum. Oh, I have my camera turned off. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I just
Yeah, that missed the dramatic effect. It looks like this.
the
Okay,
hole in
so
it. You can see the
this is
bottom.
the masking icon. So let's go back to Photoshop. Turn that back off. Go back to the whole desktop. Here we are. Share. There we are. And so if you go back to, we pop out the layers menu, and there's a little white rectangle with a black circle in the middle of it called the layer mask. I'm going to click on that, and you get this white rectangle next to this thumbnail. That white rectangle denotes the fact that this is now a, it's now able to have a hole cut into it. And I'm going to go over here to the left. I'm going to choose a brush. I don't know if you can see it, but this is a brush right
Yeah.
here. I'm going to make sure I have a black foreground color here on the left. This is kind of some of what Photoshop does. I'm just going to barrel ahead, come back to this. If by chance this white square is on top, you can just click on this double-headed arrow like I'm doing right now. Make sure you have a black color so you have a brush with a black color. If I didn't have this mask and I just had the layer and I started clicking and dragging, I'd be dragging a black brush over it. But what this black brush does is the black brush is the scissors. And so now I just come down here and I start cutting over. Whoops, I need to change this. I'll explain what I'm doing here in a second. I just, go like this, and look how beautiful that is. I can see the underneath globe because I'm now going to turn the opacity back up to 100%. What I just did is I just cut, I'm going to turn off the underneath layer. I just cut those two holes.
So when you do your cutting,
Yeah.
does it seemed like it cut them perfectly, as opposed to like if you had cut in the middle of that, would it have just taken half of it out?
Yeah, exactly.
When
So
you
I can go back to
when you're
this
doing
white
it by
color.
hand, yeah.
Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. I can go back to this white. Let me make a white brush, and a white brush actually fixes the thing. So I'm going to cover that back up again.
Crazy.
So there it is. I'm covering it back up. I'm going to turn on the underneath layer again. So if I go back to a black brush, see, I'm cutting a hole in it. If I turn off this, and I keep cutting this hole like that, and it is very irregular. I mean, I'm just doing this by hand. I turn on the bottom layer again. Boom, there it is. If I turn off
Puts
the
it back
top
in.
layer, I just have that. That's the bottom layer. That's the
Because you're
top
not
layer.
really cutting the layer, you're just hiding the part of the layer, right?
Correct.
That's what
Well,
you're
I
doing.
mean, it's sort of
And
semantic, but you are removing it. It's still there in
it's
Photoshop,
becoming transparent.
becoming transparent.
Yeah, the top layer is
Yeah,
becoming transparent where you put the holes, if you will.
got it.
Yeah,
So what
Affinity
you're saying is it's
Photo
still
has these
there.
exact same kinds of tools for doing this. And because his image is the same image for both of the layers,
Yes,
you get the nice shape of the light ball there.
right. I mean, if you zoom in on
If it
this,
was some other image behind it, then you'd do this cutout and you would get the light ball plus whatever was in that original image.
yeah. I mean,
So because you had both layers of the same stuff, same background, if you will, that's why you can do this.
that's right. That's the key. Is this was these both of these images were taken with my camera on a tripod at the same exact spot.
Got it. I could see applications of this even with our astrophotography. You know, if we have some defects that we have to remove or something.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. All
It's
right,
a
so
little bit
now,
dangerous because people could put stuff in too that wasn't
well,
there.
absolutely, that's right. Okay, so now let's see where I want to go next. So let's go to here, and let's go with these two. So, okay, so Suresh, this is, I opened these two up and they're both open as separate tabs, okay?
Yep.
And what I want to do now is, again, for this purpose, go to Arrange, Tile All Vertically, excuse me, and this image on the left has the stars in focus, but this foreground is a little soft. The image on the right, I separately focus on the foreground, so this is very sharp, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
sky soft.
But the stars are out of focus. Yep.
Totally out of focus. So I want to get rid of the scars. So I'm going to, so watch this. So I'm going to take this image on the right. Watch this. I'm going to, instead of using the whole brush mask thing, I'm just going to delete the sky. So Photoshop has this ability, or so I say, select the sky under the select menu. So before I was select all, and I'm going to select the sky. Watch this. It finds the sky. Now, back in the day, I used to have to do this by hand, and it was tedious
Man,
and imperfect to say the least.
this
But
is amazing.
it's amazing. Now watch this. I'm going to hit the delete button on my keyboard. 3, 2, 1, delete. Boom.
I just saw a similar thing, Mike. One of these Facebook ads
Hmm.
for Photoshop Edition, where somebody did that with cable wires, like in the city, like cable car wires.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah,
There's
that's
one of
yeah.
those now for cable car wires.
I mean, I suspect that is that includes this plus a generative fill capability. So that's a whole different thing. But yeah, I mean, the use of AI and doing stuff like this is amazing. So I'm going to come up to select, deselect. And now I'm done selecting the sky. I want to get rid of that selection. And again, just to be clear, this is what's left of that image. Okay, just
Hmm.
this. So now I'm going to go back to select all. So I've selected this entire image on the right. I'm going to come over. I'm going to click on my image on the left. Again, watch up here in this layer part. So I'm going to come here and go edit, paste. 3, 2, 1, paste. Whoops. That didn't work very well, did it? I think I forgot to hit copy. So how about if I hit copy first? So I hit copy, come over here on the left, edit, 3, 2, 1, paste. Boom. Two things. First, you can now see the foreground's nice and sharp. See that?
Yeah,
And you can
I
see
see
the
what you did.
layers over here.
Carter, are you on? I know he's on, but I'm not sure if he's actually on. I was going to ask
No,
if
I
he does
don't
stuff
see
like
him.
this.
He
I
was
He's
on
listed.
see,
He's
before.
there.
I'm
He
here.
is.
I'm here.
Hey, Carter, is this the stuff that you know how to do, Carter? All this stuff?
Yeah. Yep. I don't do landscape shots like this. That's a really cool application of it.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Very, very powerful. So, Suresh, how's your mental understanding of layers now?
That helps. It actually took me into a tangent, Mike, and it's probably not for this one, but how you're adding in landscape objects into a picture that has, like, say, deep sky objects in it.
Uh-huh.
You know, you could probably use this technique as well for that, right?
Definitely. Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's something I want to learn,
Yeah. Yeah,
and I
I mean,
know you're the wizard at that.
I mean, this it has so many different applications for doing that. I mean, it's probably this is a probably good point to a good time to, stake out an artistic position, so to speak. And that is that all the stuff that I do, whenever I combine images, I'm combining images made from the same tripod position, from the same location, same camera, same lens, same imaging session. So this isn't a case where I'm bringing in a Milky Way from, March with a landscape from July or something like that. It's my personal method is to just always, when I combine things, they're always from, like I said, the same basically the same spot and the same camera. It's just, you know, extending the camera's capabilities to match something that it can do or that I can perceive or something like that. And there's folks who will use this technique to, I mean, there's people who literally have a library of Milky Ways that they will then take and put into whatever landscape they find, or sunsets or anything like that. And, you know, that's fine. It's just a different way of doing things. But just to calibrate this evening's discussion, that this where I'm coming from is to do something just like this, basically. So I thought I would just say that.
It's all a slippery slope once you start combining more than one shot.
It can be. It's a tempting slippery slope sometimes. All right, so that was that one. Let me show you this other kind of neat example. I mean, at some point it becomes just, I won't say more of the same, but there are, I want to just sort of go through a few different ways of doing this because it could be, again, it can be some inspiration for different tangents. So this example on the left is at Devil's Postpile, and just a straight up shot. And then on the right, I used my beloved fog filter or diffuser to enhance the stars. And I don't know if you're, I think many of you have heard me talk about the fog filter or the diffusing filter. But what it does is it basically spreads out the light from the stars so it reduces their intensity so it doesn't saturate the pixels as much on these DSLRs, and you can see more of the star colors. So that's why the stars look more pronounced more prominent on the right, but you can see the downside is that the foreground starts to look very, not only noisy because I'm shooting at high ISOs, but very soft compared to the foreground on the right, which is a lot more crisp and clear. And so what we want to do in this case is to keep the foreground on the left and put the foreground on the left over on the foreground on the right. So again, I'm going to, whether it's on the left or the right doesn't really matter. I'm going to click on the image on the left. And you may notice that when Photoshop opens up an image, the default is to have it as a background with a lock. And this lock means that you can't really make changes to it as a sort of protective, CYA mode. So I'm going to unclick that because I want to delete the sky in this. And again, I'm going to go to Select Sky. Boom, look at this. And I mean, the thing that's amazing about this is it does such a good job of feathering around this tree, for the most part. I mean, you can see some parts where it didn't. But in any event, so I'm going to hit the delete button. 3, 2, 1, delete. Gone. Select. Deselect. So again, I've deselected this. And I'm going to select all of this image on the left. So I've done that. Come over to the image on the right. Whoops, I forgot to copy it again. So image on the left, edit. Let's try that again. So I've got the image on the left. So I'm going to hit select all, edit, copy, come over to the image on the right, edit, paste. And there it is. So again, I pasted in this sharp foreground from the image on the left over the foggy foreground from the image on the right.
So what you did here was you selected sky, but you took the ground is what you took.
I selected the sky and deleted it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yes, and then I took what was left, which is the sharp foreground, and copied that and pasted that over the less sharp foreground in the image on the right.
And this is how we get all those fake images on Facebook, huh?
Totally. Because, yeah, I mean, you could literally take this foreground, and this could be an image of anything. It could be an image of downtown Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just drop this in like that, and, or this could be, and this is the thing, like when you get the moon that's, a waxing gibbous moon or something, and then you have something that's like the Milky Way. And people combine things in different ways. But yeah, this is what Photoshop does, for better or for worse. This is what the gist of tonight's thing is all about, is combining images, is the combining of images using layers and layer masks. So there's that.
Interesting.
Yeah. I shall plunge ahead. I'm not going to say that. All right, so that's that example. And here's kind of a fun one that you may have seen uh, in different you may have seen different examples of this. And here we have an image of downtown Minneapolis, speaking of which, at night, and then from the same spot, same tripod location earlier that same evening. And what I want to do now is I'll tile these again side by side. Excuse me. I'll scale them down so you can see them. And now what I want to do is, let's say I want to start off with this image on the left. So I'm going to select all. So select all. I'm doing this over and over again so you can see how it's basically the same steps in this case. Copy, come over here on the right, edit, paste. So now I've pasted this image on the, so let's give this some space here. So now I've pasted this image. I lost my tools.
But
You know
here,
what?
Mike, you don't have the two tabs at the top like you did before. Now you just have one.
Well,
See, in each one, you just have the one tab.
no, I do have the two tabs here.
But
Oh,
on the top,
yes. Okay.
in the last thing, you had two tabs.
Right. So that's just a function of how I arrange the window. So if I go to Window, Arrange, Consolidate all to tabs, then I end up with the two tabs.
Ah, that's what I need to let's see. Okay,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah,
you.
and this is the default of how Photoshop opens up images. It just opens up each one separately in its own tab. But you know what? This is
And that's the way I use it too. When I
yeah,
use Photoshop, that's the format I use it.
me too, honestly.
I,
I mean, because it's so much you can see you see more of the image. Um, and in fact, I'm going to go ahead and close this image now because now we have this image that has in fact, I can decrease the opacity so you can see how, it is basically the same, just different things. But watch this. This is kind of a neat trick. So I'm going to go back to my mask. So I'm going to click on this rectangle oh, Nick Johnson's coming back in. So I'm going to click on this mask. I've got the top layer highlighted. I'm going to click on this masking icon, the layer mask. I'll get my white rectangle. And now I'm going to come over here to this gradient tool. If you come over to your menu and the gradient tool isn't visible, you might have the paint bucket tool. Just
Mhm.
click on the control or the control for a Mac. I don't know maybe right click on the PC, and you'll have an option of which of these tools you want to have. You want to choose the gradient tool like this. Watch this. Check this out.
What? What did it do?
So what it did is it deleted that half of the image. Crazy, right? So let me do that
That
again.
is wild.
So I'm going to now do it like so. Whoops. So I want to go back to the mask. There's the mask. I've got my gradient tool. And I'm going to click. Isn't that crazy? So you can have it. This is how people make these so-called day to night images.
It's beautiful.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it's really, this is a particularly symmetric spot. And you can experiment with um, the sharpness of the gradient. For example, if you have a very sharp gradient like this, versus a much, more spread out gradient like so. But this is a really fun thing to do if you ever like, you can see how the buildings kind of change colors during night. But again, this is just playing around with Photoshop in two different images made from the same tripod location, the same location on the same night, etc.
So,
So that's
Mike, is this a thing you use when you do your landscape stuff? Is this the feat like a
oh, totally.
one of the yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of fun because often, we'll do a time lapse project from before sunset to full darkness. And you just take two images, and these are so easy to combine in this way.
Nick Johnson, this sounds like something that you'd want to do.
Yep.
Well, all right. Okay. Let's see what else we got. There's So this next one may touch on something that Suresh, you mentioned. Let's see if I can find it on the right. Okay, so these two, I'll start by opening up these two. All right. So this is a tracked image. This is a tracked and stacked image of the rho Ophiuchus, complex as it's setting over the mountains in eastern California, in the eastern Sierra in California. Straight out of the camera. This is just, I haven't done any image manipulation at all other than to track this and stack this. Now, separately, I took a 4-minute exposure of the foreground at a much lower ISO. I think it was like 800 ISO or something like this. I think this was something like either 12,800 or 6,400 or something crazy. But I think I have, let's see if I can, I have the, yeah. So let me demonstrate what this is. So I took, okay, 4 minutes at ISO 1600. So I took this image on the left. This is a little PowerPoint presentation. It's part of a different talk. Whoops. So this was the image plan, by the way, in Planet Pro. So I planned this ahead of time. And so I took this 4-minute, and the clouds had rolled in. I took this image on the left, deleted the sky, just like I showed you. I selected the sky and deleted it. And then this is the stack of 20 images on the right that I just showed you. And so I have these two images. And then I simply combined them in this way. So I took image A and placed it on top of image B to get this result in the middle.
Hmm.
And
How did you get in those? If you go back to that right there,
yeah,
the mountains are a different. How do I say this? So you
right,
stuck the sky layer behind the ground layer in A. That's what you did, right?
correct.
Because that way B is partially hidden. The
Right,
sky there
right.
is
Yeah, you
partially
got
hidden.
it. You got it.
Okay.
So here's a time lapse. No, this is a short time lapse showing what actually happened that night. Again, I'm tracking it was windy and the tripod's going to slip here in a second. But you can see how it does line up right there perfectly.
Yeah.
Whoops. So this was the plan shot, but anyway, let me go back. Whoa, I'm going the wrong way. Right, so that's exactly right. So this is what's now known as a deepscape. It's a deep sky object in a landscape format. And this was the cover of my last book.
Wow.
That was after the editing. And this is a pretty common scenario. So again, I feel like is that, in theory, you could take a single shot of the night sky subject in position over the foreground. It's just you get a better version of it if you do the, multiple image stacking and registration and so forth.
I can see that usable for comets, meteors, things that are
Absolutely,
moving.
absolutely. So I'm going to bust on out of that. And so again, this is exactly it. So I have this image on the left. So select sky. Whoops, select all. Where am I here? Why are you not letting me select the sky? I'll tell you what, let me try doing this. So I just realized I have these 4 layers where I was bringing in all the different car trails, and that may be something. Let's do this. Let's try flattening this. Boom. Turn the background lock off. Now we can select the sky. So we select the sky, does that. Delete it, 3, 2, 1, boom, sky's gone. Deselect the sky, select the entire image, and this is why I wanted to take this one and copy it, and then go over to this guy and hit paste. And of course, it pasted it in a funny position, which often happens. So I'm going to redo that again. So edit, paste special, paste in place, and that puts it back where it was in the original image, which is down there. And then once you have this composite image of these two different layers, then you can combine them and then, edit it from there, basically. So I will stop sharing here for a second and see if anyone has any questions. I've got several more examples to go through, but I thought this would be a good point to stop and see questions or comments and so forth.
This is awesome, Mike.
I'm glad you like it, bud.
How about the
Yeah.
silent people?
Yeah, it makes a lot of
Nick,
sense.
Good.
Nick H, Carter, Nick, other Nick, Don, you guys have any questions?
It kind of makes sense to me on a maybe tangential level. I'm kind of coming from architecture where drawings historically were done in layers as well. So you'd have, you know,
Oh, sure.
one layer of vellum that has the walls in it, another layer of vellum that, maybe has the grid lines, and you'd have, multiple layers, and then CAD does that on steroids, where the doors are on one layer and the windows are on another layer and the walls are on another layer, and you combine it all together and you turn off and on what you want.
Absolutely. That's a great analogy.
Oh yeah, this is great. This is great, Mike. Appreciate it. I was gonna say, for people wondering about DSOs, not just landscape, there's still a ton of use for stuff like this, especially the layer masks. For example, on galaxies that have bright cores, and there's ways to do this in PixInsight as well. But galaxies that have bright cores or nebulas that have really bright spots, you can do what Mike was just showing on the ball image up north, the first one he showed. You can
Yeah.
use that same technique to, completely isolate the core of a galaxy, for example, and then only edit the other aspects, or vice versa. And it's like I said, there's ways to do it in PixInsight as well, but that's with pixel math. And for some people, this the visual way Photoshop works. I know they like it better.
Hey, that's a great comment. Thanks, Carter.
There's this kind of stuff. There's an analogous stuff for all of this in Affinity Photo. I think Phil is using Affinity Photo, or at least trying Affinity Photo, rather than shelling out for Photoshop.
Is Affinity Photo free?
No, but it's a whole lot less than Photoshop.
Yeah,
If
Photoshop's
you do about,
$10.74 a month.
it's like 6 months of Photoshop equals a full purchase of Affinity.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Affinity is like regular price $80 or something like that, and sometimes it's on sale. I think I got it for $40 or something, and it's a lifetime thing. So
And it
Oh, I
will
should get that.
register and stack images. So you can do LRGB, stack all your L's, your R's, your G's, your B's, and then align them and combine them in Affinity Photo to get a colored image. And then there's a whole bunch of macros for star reduction and separation and things like that, and background subtraction that exist in Affinity Photo. So it's kind of a poor man's PixInsight in some respects. Not as good as
So,
PixInsight, not as capable, but you don't have to shell out like you do for Adobe stuff.
so for Affinity Photo, is it like PixInsight geared towards astrophotography?
No, it's geared towards regular photography and regular image like Photoshop is, but it's got plugins specifically for astrophotography because the guy who created it does astrophotography for a hobby. So he made
Lucky.
it do stacking of images and registration. So all of my early processing was done with Affinity Photo.
Nice.
That is
So
good
I'd
to
take,
know.
30 L images and 30 R's and 30 G's and 30 B's. I'd stack the L's and create, an L stack. I'd stack the R's, the G's, and the B's, create an R and a G and a B stack. And then I'd put them in Affinity Photo and I would align them and color them and combine them right in Affinity Photo to get a full color image.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
And since I did that, he's come out with a whole bunch of extra macros that you can use for doing things, all related to astrophotography.
Hmm.
So
Well, that,
neutral tone stretches, nonlinear stretches, enhance the red layer, the mono layer, enhance the R, enhance the L, enhance the G, enhance a sulfur 2, a hydrogen alpha O3. You can boost any of those layers, the RGB, S2, HAO3,
hmm.
um, punch and saturation, gamma stretch, and you can do the combining of images like Mike showed us the same way. You select the little thing with the hole in it, and you mask off one image and copy and paste onto the other.
Mhm.
You can do that in Affinity Photo as well.
Alan,
There's
would you like to do a presentation at some point
I'd
for
like to
us?
see.
I'm nowhere near as good at this as Mike is.
I
It
don't
doesn't
know.
matter.
It seems like you got the basics there.
And I had never done cut a hole in one layer and paste it over to the other one until tonight, Mike. So I learned that from you and just tried it
Awesome.
in Affinity Photo and could do the same thing.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's great to hear, Alan. I'm glad that worked out.
And
That's
so
awesome.
that's really what I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn about
Hmm.
better use of layers and things like that. And yeah, so you can sharpen stuff. You can separate the stars. It's got star luminance reduction. It's got star size reduction. Are all macros that are add-ons to Affinity Photo that come for free.
Hmm.
Cool. Is that British or is that American?
It's
Who makes that?
British. Yep, it's British.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, very, very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, I got to be honest, I don't know anything about Affinity other than what you have told me, I think, tonight and the last time we talked about it. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can share my desktop, I suppose, just real briefly if people are
yeah, please.
interested.
Let me see if I
Yeah, you
can.
want to do that? You want to do that at the end when Mike's done?
We can
Yeah, I
go.
just I just sent a request. So
Yeah, let's just go for it.
okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So share desktop, share. So I should be sharing my desktop. I can pull
Ooh,
up Affinity Photo.
Yep.
Let
I
me
see it.
open this thing here. So this is a really old image of M81 and 82. And if I go,
oh, I can see the
uh,
layers.
start, get rid of some of these layers so you can see it,
Definitely.
and then go get rid of this. So this is the same kind of a thing, and I put it into layers. And then over here on the left are all of the astrophotography types of things that you can go do.
Oh, yeah.
And then if I go scroll down here all the way to the bottom, there's quite a few of them. Bandpass
Wow.
sharpening, you can cool the blue tones, warm the red tones.
Hmm.
Um, there's nonlinear sharpening, there's other kinds of sharpening. So if I go get rid of this sharpening layer here, like watch, let me go zoom in on this a little bit. I'll just go drag this here. And there's lots of noise here. And this is one of my early things. But if I get rid of the sharpening, you can see that it's,
Oh, yeah.
and so yeah, there's all these splotches here and stuff like that. So this is not a great image.
No, it
Not a
gets the
great,
point across, though. I mean, you can certainly see the similarities and the parallels.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
even laid out the
exactly.
same.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, and you were talking about opacity. So if I come up here, I can come up here and click
Oh,
on
yeah.
this opacity and go, all right, let's go shrink that down.
Yeah.
So there's the opacity, same kind of a deal you were doing there. The other thing you can do here is this says, how do you want to treat this? Do you want to treat it as
Oh,
add?
shoot. Wow, that's
Do
almost
you want to
exactly
do
the
an
same as
overlay? Do you want to darken? Do you want to have
huh.
normal? What do you want to do with this?
Yeah.
So you can you'll see how each of the layers is going to be treated and how you're going to go deal with the layers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
And so if you wanted to do a stack, what I'd do is I'd come over here and I'd say new astrophotography stack. And I would open up my light frames here and then go open light frames. Then I would select my dark frames, put my dark frames in, my dark flats, and my flat frames. And then I would tell it to go apply, which would go start stacking it all.
Hmm.
And then it
So
would go
that's almost
stack that, and it would leave it as, if this was all the L, if this was luminance, it would give me the luminance layer. And I would select whether it's luminance red, green, blue, H alpha O3 right here.
Hmm.
So if I was shooting a red, I could put all my red light frames in here, get the bias, the dark flats, the flats, and go process it, and then have all of that stuff to be combined. And if I was using one shot color, I could do it with just one operation rather than having all the mono filters. And so this is what you can do with Affinity Photo for $80,
Yeah.
one time payment, rather than Photoshop and or the PixInsight fees.
Yeah, I feel I
it's a
feel
lot
it, man.
cheaper.
Alan, that's excellent. Thanks for that. Yeah, it looks it really helped to see the interface because there are a lot of,
Oh,
direct
yeah.
corollaries.
Yeah, hugely similar. Hugely
Yeah.
similar. So you go like add files here and then go find all my red light frames, if you will. Then I'd go to my dark frames and stuff.
Hmm.
And so
Love.
that's how you use the astrophotography stacks. Yes, I want to do that. And then filters here, there's remove the background. So let me go back to whole image here. And we'll just tinker with this just for the heck of it. Filters, astrophotography, remove the background. So what you do is you go here, and I'm going to say sample at there, and then you can go add another one over here and
Oh,
add another
sure.
one over here. So it's almost like a dynamic,
Yeah.
or real-time background extraction to get rid of the backgrounds.
Hmm.
And then you'd click apply. So you can get rid of gradients and backgrounds with this way.
Hmm.
So it's actually pretty
Yeah.
powerful tool. And the user interface is very much like Photoshop. So it's very visual and very intuitive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I really do like about Photoshop is that capability. You can kind of see things
Yeah.
without, stretching your brain too much.
So yeah, if people wanted me to, I suppose I could do a thing. I would go find some images and I could do one on I can't host Zoom meetings, but I could do one on how to go take an LRGB image set that's from way back and stack it in Affinity Photo, get the darks and the flats and all that stuff, stack it, and then combine the LRGB
Mhm.
and show how to do that in Affinity Photo for those who wanted to.
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I got to go practice because I haven't used it for a while for that. So I need a little bit practice to get used to it so I can start doing it again.
All right.
And then the other
Nice.
tool that I use, I'm on a Mac as well, by the way. Um, and this just arrived for me. It's a large format uh, uh, reducer corrector for my C14 that I can have full frame images at f7.2 with a C14.
Wow.
So I'm just getting my back focus set up. But anyway, if I go over here and I go launch Astro Image J.
Oh, Image J. Is that from that? I remember Image J from the NIH years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. So if I just go get
Astro
this
Image
guy and
J.
say open this up, this is that same image we just worked on, if you will. And I'm going to say, let's do a plate solve on it. I'm just not going to give it any info. I'm going to tell it to go plate solve. It's going to go
Wow.
find stars, do a plate solve. It'll come back here in just a bit and have a complete plate solve.
Do you need an
Nice.
internet connection for that, right?
Yeah. Because it goes off
Yeah.
to astrometry to do the plate
Oh,
solving.
sure. Okay. Yeah.
So I missed
Here
part
we
of that. So
go.
you can use Affinity Pro to plate solve your image.
Well, this is a different thing, but I can just take the JPEG that comes out of Affinity
This was
Photo
this was
and plate solve
Astro
it.
Image J.
Yeah, this is Astro Image J. And then, like,
Oh,
if I want to know what the
yes.
heck, what is this star here, I can right click on it and it will go to Simbad and tell me that this is what that star is.
Huh.
It's magnitude 13.3. So I'm going to label it with this. And then I'm going to go back to Astro Image J and I'm just
Double
going
up
to
this
keep
stuff.
that label and say, okay. And now it's labeled.
That's awesome.
Hey, Don, you remember that image I took with the 23rd magnitude galaxies from a couple of years ago? This would have been
Sure.
very helpful.
That's really cool, Alan. I didn't know there was an Astro Image J.
Yeah. And it's really great for like doing double stars.
Hmm.
I come over here and we can say,
Oh, that'd be nice.
Mine would
and
be
then
a
the other thing you
supernova,
can,
not a faint star.
Does he get a certificate with that?
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Uh, uh,
Have to pay extra for that.
Right. It's the
and
platinum edition.
it'll tell you the pixel scale. I got to get the lines back on here, but it'll tell you what distance is how many arc seconds. So it'll give you the complete scale of your image. And then you can do things like, is it this way? No, that's not it. So that, if I go back to here, so that was in a position angle of 167.82, and the arc length was 4 minutes and 11.79 seconds between those two stars. And the magnitude difference, the delta magnitude is 0.44.
That's crazy. That's all kinds of information.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
So anyway, that's what I used to be doing. Is I used to be using Affinity Photo to do all of my stacking of the monochrome images I shot, and then combining into color. And then I could go play with the gradient corrections and things like that. And then I could go take it into to Astro Image J and plate solve it for things that were of interest in there that I didn't readily identify.
Mhm.
So anyway.
Well, thank you, Alan. That was a very good quick overview, but I'd love to see that in some more detail.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna download what'd you call this thing?
Astro
second
Image
software.
J is free.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go download that. I think I had it, then
It's
I
from
lost.
University of Louisville.
Huh. Because the image shade came from the NIH for looking at gelatin blots or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
NIH, not invented here.
Yeah, it was
I know what you meant.
that was a few decades ago for
Yeah.
sure.
So yeah, this is called Astro Image J.
Yeah, that bar right there looks very familiar.
Yeah, they borrowed heavily from it.
Yeah, very cool.
So
Yeah. Well, okay. All right. Well, that was Alan, thanks for that. That was really great.
yeah, and some of the stuff I showed you here tonight, I learned from you while we were in our session.
Well, that's what the whole point, isn't it? Really.
Bingo, exactly.
That's the whole
Exactly.
point why we do these things.
Love it.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna
I
go
like.
back
Thanks for
to
speaking up, Alan. Thanks for doing that.
yeah, absolutely, for sure. So, following along what Alan was just talking about, and Carter mentioned this as well, and I think someone else had talked about doing an HDR blend, basically, of the bright portions of different nebulae. I have two different images of the Orion Nebula. I was doing this as part of another one of these deepscape projects, and this guy on the left was this was overexposed, as you can see. This, I think, was a 60-second exposure. And then this one on the right, I believe, is a 5-second exposure. And they're both taken with a 135 millimeter lens. All right. So what I want to do is I want to copy this guy on the left on top of this one on the right, and then delete the overexposed parts from the one on the left that's on top, and that will reveal the correctly exposed parts of the image on the right. All right. So I think we're tracking along enough to be able to do that. So again, I'm going to, I don't know if I should ask the audience for what my instructions do, but if I want to, what's the first step I want to do with this image on the left?
Do you want to copy it?
Correct. So I'm
Is
going
that
to
what you do?
select all and then edit copy. And come over here to the image on the right and hit edit paste. Then boom, we have 2 layers here. And I can close the image on the left now because we're done with that. So now I have, if I turn off the top layer, there's the image, the underneath image that we are going to use just a small part of it. I'm now going to zoom in on this. And now what do I do? Create a
Cut
mask.
holes. Cut
Cut
holes.
holes. Yes, cut holes. So I'm going to hit this layer mask icon. So now I've created this layer mask. I'm going to get my brush, which is about that size. It's probably about the size I want. And now let me draw your attention up here. When I could, if I click, it's just going to punch a circular hole, which is going to be very obvious and unpleasant. There's a couple of controls on the brush. One of them is called the opacity, and the second one is called the flow. What's the difference? Well, the opacity, I'm going to set the opacity down to around, 30% or so. So that means that best case scenario, when I fully execute this brush, it's going to leave 30%. Now the flow is how much of that happens per mouse click. So if I leave it at 100%, click, boom, done, I'm done. But I don't want that. I want to be even more, I'm going to fine tune my fine tuning. So I'm going to bring my flow down to 20, so 30%, 20%, somewhere in there. So every time I click, it only gradually builds up to that 30% maximum opacity. So as confusing as all that is, basically the opacity and the flow controls on the brush allow you to more gently introduce your changes.
You're kind of like airbrushing a mask.
Very much so. Thank you for that. Yeah. So first thing I want to do actually, though, before I do anything, is I want to make sure these things are aligned. So I'm going to bring my opacity down. And oh, they're not. I thought so as much. So I'm just going to, do a just very crude alignment so that, I'm moving. That looks pretty good. I think that should work. Okay.
Yeah.
Back to the maps.
On Affinity Photo, you can go to align images
Beautiful.
specifically for stars.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think there's a similar thing. It's kind of funny because where is it? Image align. Auto align. Oh, I haven't selected both layers. So if I selected both layers here, I think this would do the same. And it's so funny that you mentioned that because auto align layers. I'm going to leave that off now, but there's so many things that, like, I started using this back in the 1990s, honestly, early 1990s, when it was just a graphics tool for a printer we used. And I developed these habits that are so ingrained that as these new capabilities came along, I don't use them because it's like I'm just so stuck in my ways. So, but you're totally right. There's that. But so back to the mask. I've got my mask. I've got my brush. Opacity. I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller, and I'm going to bring my opacity of this layer back up to 100%, so it's completely blown out. Okay, there we go. Back to the okay. So watch this. I'm going to start clicking. I'm going to go click, 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 click. See how it's starting to come in? Click, 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 click.
So you can bring out the trapezium.
Yeah, exactly. And if I turn off the bottom layer, you can see the hole that I just cut.
So you created another layer on top of your first image, is what
Correct.
you did.
And in fact, if I disable this mask, I'm
That's what,
looking at the first image.
oh, that's powerful.
That's this exactly. This is where I wanted to lead in to this point with all the other examples, because this is where I think for this group you could actually, use this.
So how did you do that again? How'd you set up that mask on top of that?
I'll show you. So let's quit this layer. We'll just do the whole thing all over again. All right, so we're going to go
Sorry.
to, no, this is, I want you to understand this, because this is, I have another example with a comment down here too. Okay, so I want to open with Photoshop. All right, so I've got my two images. Let's tile them next to each other so we can see them both. And this guy here, file info, camera data. So, okay, the one on the right is 5 seconds. So they're both 135 millimeters, 1600, uptracked obviously, f2.8. One on the right is 5 seconds, and the one on the left is 60 seconds, f2.8. So, all right, so this is 10, 20. This is like three stops difference, roughly. So if I zoom in on this one on the left, you can see how blown out the central part of the nebula is. If I zoom in on the one on the right, this is only a 5-second exposure. This is 60-second exposure. Everything else is the same. The central part, the trapezium part, is more correctly exposed. And so I want to take this image on the left, copy it on top of the image on the right, and then cut a hole in it so I can see the good part of the image on the right. Okay, so let's do that.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's really cool.
So
You know, where I can potentially, where I could potentially use this is on planetary nebula, where the outer layers are
sure.
overwhelmed by the central star.
Absolutely, that'd be perfect for that. And the nice thing about this, and what I really, really, really like about this, is the manual control over you can really finesse the part that you're removing. And, you can make multiple different versions of it. All right, so I've got the image on the left. I'm going to select all, boom, copy. So I'm copying the image on the left. I'm now going to the image on the right. I've clicked on it. I'm going to hit edit paste. So I've now pasted, I pasted the image on the left on top of the image, so we're ready to go. I'm going to close the image on the left. We're done with that. And now I'm going to zoom in, and I have to, let's try auto aligning these. Let's just try that. So I've highlighted both layers. Let's go to auto align layers. Yep, that. They don't overlap. Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's worth a try. So I'm going to turn I'm just going to align the layers right now. So I want to be able to move them around. So I'm going to do that using the arrows on my keyboard. There's varying levels of sophistication you can do this with. One thing you can do is you can go to what is it, difference, and move things around until you get a certain, anyway, so we've aligned the layers. So now we're ready to go. We're going to bring the opacity back up. So we've got our top layer. I can turn it off. There's the bottom layer. Top layer is on top of the bottom layer. I'm going to add a mask to the top layer using this little rectangle with a hole cut in it, the layer mask. There it is. I'm going to come over to my brush, which is the brush tool with the letter B. Got my brush tool. I've got my black color on top. I've taken the opacity and the flow down. So let me show you, if I have the opacity all the way up and the flow all the way up, and I click once, 1, 2, 3, click, I get that. So it's pretty ugly. See that?
Yeah.
I don't want that. I don't want that at all. So I'm going to delete this layer mask and start all over again. So instead of having 100% opacity, I'm going to bring the opacity down to, say, in the mid-20s. And the flow, I'm going to bring the flow down to the mid-20s. And now when I click, it's much more gentle. It doesn't just punch that big, ugly. So I can kind of, play around with the part till it looks like I want it to look. And I mean, this is like personal taste 100% at this stage.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, you can make this like really, really, I mean, you can go down to pixel level stuff, or you can make this as big as you want.
I don't think PixInsight has a capability like this. Does it, Phil? I haven't. see anything in PixInsight you could do this.
There are some freeform game scripts and things like that, and you can change the opacity, but I don't think you there isn't really an equivalent of flow.
This is amazing.
Cool.
Alan, will this work? And is there a similar tool in Infinity Pro?
Yes, there is. Affinity Photo. Yeah.
Infinity Pro, sorry.
Yep, there is a similar
That's
tool.
cool.
Yep.
Very cool.
That's
Oh, this
just
is
the
good
bottom
stuff.
layer. Turn the top layer on and off. I turn the bottom layer on and
Three
off. You can
layers.
see what's left. And if I take the mask and if I disable it, then that's what we started off with, basically.
Hmm.
Excellent. Okay, so that was a key.
But
This was the key. This is all the other stuff was kind of a prelude to this. So that was, um, then you have something that looks, not terrible compared to that. So there's that. Let's try another example with comets. And this one is a little bit less developed in my mind. So we're going to see how well this goes. But this was, I think, the comet. This is the Atlas from last fall. Let's open that with Photoshop again. So we have these three. This was a 5-second, 15-second, 60-second. Okay. So again, the same sort of thing. We're going to tile these all up, and you can see how you get varying degrees of, again, my apologies for these shots. They're not the greatest shots in the world. I was just kind of playing around with this. But let's forget about this 15-second one, and let's just take this guy on the right. We're going to select all. We're going to copy it. I'm doing this now with keyboard shortcuts, and paste it over here on the image on the left. So now we have I've taken you have that same thing. We have this is the bottom layer, and then if I turn on the top layer. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is to align the stars. I'm going to bring the opacity down a little bit and look for some patterns. And let's see here. Oh, there we go.
Eureka.
Yeah. Now, here's an interesting thing. This is kind of the interesting thing is I don't want to align the stars, do I? Because the comet's moved. So I'm going to ditch
All
that,
right.
and I'm going to align the comet head. I'm just looking down here.
Hmm.
Because remember, the only part we're going to reveal is the inside part of the comet. So we won't see any of the stars from the second image. And so we're going to put I don't know, where do you guys think the comet head is? Right about there.
Right about there.
It's kind of like, so I mean, that's the original image. And then that's that one. So
Yeah, this is like what we do in Comet Align and PixInsight,
yeah,
where we choose where to put the nucleus.
yeah, that rings a bell. So, okay, so we've got that. I'm going to turn the opacity back up to 100%. And we may need to use the intermediate, the 15-second one, but this is for the purposes of illustration. I've created a mask, got my brush. I'm going to make my brush considerably smaller now. I'm doing this adjustment using the square brackets on my keyboard, this brush adjustment. The flow is still in the mid-20s. I'm just going to start clicking around here. That doesn't look great. I don't know. Well, I might leave this for tonight because that looks pretty horrible, honestly. But you get the idea of in more sophisticated hands than mine, this would be something that you could use with comets. I think, excuse me, I think we might just leave it at that. But it's a similar sort of thing. Just had to let's just leave that one altogether. So there's that one. So now, so those are two examples of the comet and the nebula of using layers of different exposures to bring things together. Now, the next, I've got just a couple more examples I want to share. This next one is let's try let's see if this one works. So here we have a stacked image of the Milky Way. So okay, so this image right here, I have three images showing, and I have starting with the one on the right. This is a stacked image of the Milky Way, basically over a landscape in Kanab, Utah. And then I have one with the stars removed. Oh, then I did a background extraction in PixInsight, and I did a star exterminator to get rid of the stars. And this is a starry layer here. So I have the starry layer and the starless layer. And this is just basically for reference. So I'm just going to do a very quick and ugly, let's see. I'm gonna really, make dramatic the Milky Way core. And
I wanted to hop in real quick. This is actually one of the most powerful things I've found in Photoshop that PixInsight cannot do on an
oh,
equal level is what he's using right now is called Camera Raw. Um, just wanted to mention this is a very unique thing to Photoshop as far as how it's laid out and the functionality of it.
love that. Could you
No,
elaborate on
Nick,
that?
sorry, just real quick. I know Nick Hartman has used this, right, Nick, for in deep sky imaging, camera raw.
Yes, I use that all the time.
Sorry, Carter, you were saying?
It's all I was really saying. I know Mike didn't, um, I'm sure it wasn't on purpose, but you didn't mention what this tool is you're in right now. And this tool in particular is incredibly strong and not available in PixInsight. They have a very similar thing in Lightroom. Lightroom is basically just this, but more expanded. Just,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all.
No, that's excellent. I mean, this actually, the origins of this, I'm glad you mentioned it. The Camera Raw, this is the Adobe Camera Raw tool. And the legacy of this was that when digital cameras first came on the scene, uh, each camera, like Nikon and Canon and so forth, had their own way of dealing with raw files. And it was incredibly cumbersome and awful because they're camera manufacturers and not software people. And so Adobe came along with this Camera Raw tool, which does this. It basically, the primary function was just that you open up your raw file, make some adjustments to it, and then save it as a not raw file like JPEG or whatever. And it became so popular that, like Nick just mentioned, it then became embedded as a filter inside of Photoshop, as I'm using it just now. And then also, it's the basic of the develop module in Lightroom. And because it's a very powerful tool and it's got a lot of different capabilities. So definitely worth checking out. All right, so we got that. And now we're going to do the same thing. Let's go over to as you can see here, I'm in Photoshop. So I go to Photoshop filter, camera, raw filter. Photoshop has a bunch of other different things, but this camera raw filter pulls up that same interface.
Hey,
And
Mike, just FYI, keep an eye out for an invite from, or what do you call it when you get in from
yeah.
Rodrigo. He's going to jump on in a
Great. I
second.
was hoping he was going to. I will definitely do that. Yeah.
I'm not
Excellent.
sure if the rest of us see it or not.
Okay. Yeah, it'll pop up on the screen, hopefully. So that would, but yeah, glad you mentioned that. Thank you. So I'm gonna like kind of overdo this just for the sake of, this is like pre-blur exterminator, I know. So there it is. So I have the star layer and I have the starless layer. So now watch this. I want to take this star layer, Control A, copy it, and put it on top of this guy right here. So I'm going to close the star layer now. And no, I'm not going to save that. I'm going to close the original image. I guess I'll close that. Don't save that. All right, so now I have this image. And if I turn off so it's got the starry layer on top of the starless layer. So the basic approach here would then do some sort of a, linear dodge mode like this, which again looks kind of awful because I did that on purpose. But now look at this. If I go to my layer, the star layer, again with what we're doing here, and I add a layer mask to it, and I take a brush, which is black, and I make the brush, you see how tiny the brush is from before? I want to make the brush much bigger. In fact, I want to make the brush like this big now. And now I'm going to actually bring up the flow. I want to monkey around with this. I want to make some progress. So if I want to, let's say over the pipe, the dark horse area, if I start clicking, I can sort of selectively remove some of the stars. See that? And the point here, I think you can get the message, is if there's some regions of if there's some areas of the image that I want to highlight the nebula, I can selectively look at the mask over here in the upper right. See that? I'm
Yeah,
going
and
to
you
use
can
the
adjust the
whole,
mask, the opacity of the mask.
exactly. I can locally, this is like dodging and burning. I can locally decrease the opacity of the mask to selectively reveal certain portions of the nebula and then keep everything else the same, basically.
Wow.
And so this is again something you can do with multiple layers and mask. Again, this is an awful image, so my apologies for that, but there you have it. So there's that. All right, the last thing I really wanted to mention, and this is kind of new territory for me, I'm not going to lie, is the whole H alpha RGB thing. So I'm willing to give it a try. But be kind because I'm going to be. I won't say you probably know more than I do how to do this,
We're
and
all friends here.
we're all friends here. Thank you, whoever said that.
Mostly anyway.
So where did I put this? Shoot. That's it. Oh, here we go. It's this one, and this one. Okay. All right. Okay. So here we have it. And this was shot as, as we've been saying, this was shot not several years ago. And what I've done here is, whoops, what I've done here, these are all fitting the windows. Great. Okay. I'm just going to rearrange these around just for my own peace of mind. So this is the RGB on the left. This is no, this one here. I want this one to be there. And I want this one to be here. Uh-oh, what did I do? That's good. That's good. This is good. Okay. So what I've got here is this is the original color image that I just shot. And then I shot an H alpha version of that. And I took the red channel out of that H alpha, and that's right there. So this is the red channel from the H alpha image. And then this is the red channel from this image. So the way you do that is we've been looking over here at layers, and if you choose channels, if I just choose the red channel, then I get this guy right here. And what I want to use that for is I want to, since this is the red channel of the color image, I want to copy this image on top of it and calibrate the position of this image to this one, because I'm going to stick this one in the red channel of the actual image, but it's not in the right position right now. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select all, I'm going to copy this, I'm going to come over here to this guy, and I'm going to hit paste. And you can see I've got my two layers now. So I'm going to bring the opacity down because I need to align these. And so I'm going to zoom in a little bit and just kind of line these up as one does. We're all friends here. Please be kind. It's all about the journey, isn't it? Okay, that's close enough, I think, for what I'm trying to do at least. All right, so I've aligned that, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten this because I want to then take this, and I've got that, and I'm going to select the whole thing. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to come over to my color image, go to the red channel of my color image. which I thought I did just by that. There it is. There's the red channel. I hope this works. I'm going to hit paste. There it is. And now when I click on the full deal, that's what I get. So this now there's a funny little green color cast that I can get rid of using that camera raw filter I was just using a second ago. Whoops. I'm going to choose it on that. So the whole thing. Let's just choose that. So I'm going to go to camera raw filter, and one of the things you can do is you can actually color balance just using this little eyedropper. I'm going to do that just with a click. And there you go. I mean, it's not great, but that's one way of including the H alpha data into an RGB image using layers in Photoshop. So
It's awesome. I think I wish Rodrigo was on because I
I
wanted
do
to ask
too.
him if this is the technique that he uses
Yes,
uh,
agreed.
when he does his HAL LRGB. I
Yeah,
think this might be the way he does it.
yeah. I was agreed. I would definitely like to pick his brain on that. So I'm gonna save this as 5, just to keep that separate. And let's go back to the original, which was this guy. Yeah. So you can see if I close, don't need that anymore. Go ahead and save that. Don't need this anymore. Right. So now if we compare these, you can see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd love to find out if Rodrigo or Carter or anyone else has any thoughts on this, because certainly this is a work in progress.
Carter, do you do
I
stuff like this?
well, I only shoot broadband, so I haven't tried this myself, but I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, I'll take it. I
I
don't.
just,
Yeah.
I learn everything from just YouTube. So when the time comes and I start shooting narrowband, then I'm sure I'll
Yeah,
be looking into this much further. But
excellent.
Yeah, this is something I want to learn, Mike. This is a big deal for me.
Good. Yeah. No, this is like this is an H alpha filter, and there's a variety of other, the dual narrowband, filters and different other things happening. So, but that's all I got for tonight. I mean, I wanted to go through these different examples of different ways that I personally use um, Photoshop and the layers. I think that's really pretty much. Oh, there is one more example that I wanted to. I just saw this. There's one more, and this goes to what one of the things that Alan was sharing in terms of the different. This is very much like pixel math, I think, in PixInsight. So here I have a light painted tree, and here I have a not light painted but Milky Way. I'm going to select all of this, and then I copy it. Let me do this. Let me back up. So I'm going to go to select all, edit, copy. I'm going to go to my other image, edit, paste. Now look at this. This goes to the uh, blending mode that Alan was touching on. So if I go to lighten, blend, what
Mm.
Photoshop does is just keeps the lighter pixel between the images. And if you zoom in, you can see there's the tree moved, and it's kind of horrible. But anyway,
Yep.
it's a powerful technique for a lot of things other than combining light painted images. And in particular, star trails is a good example. But also, let me show you this. Photoshop has the ability, oh, this might be Rodrigo right here. Photoshop has the ability to load a bunch of images all at once into a single file. So if I go to this example here, these are individual shots of the full moon setting. And you can see,
Oh
there it is,
yeah.
almost full. And here's the St. Paul Capitol. And watch this. If I choose the top image, and I come down and I choose, I'm going to turn off that guy. if I choose everything but the bottom image, and then I go back to the same light and blend mode I just showed you with the trees, bam.
Yeah.
Because the moon is the brightest object in all these different images, so Photoshop just grabs that.
Crazy.
So that's how those images are made. And it's the
This would
same
be
way,
awesome.
yeah. And it's the same way with star trails. I'm not gonna do it. Oh, here's Rodrigo right here. So I'm gonna go to scripts, load files into stack. I'm certainly not going to go through a whole Star Trails thing, but Star Trails, here we go. I'll just grab some number of these so you can see how it works. So in this case, in this example, I have, a few hundred different images I use for Star Trails. Let's just grab many of them. And so these have all been miniaturized, so this happens relatively quickly. As you can well imagine, this might take a lot longer than that. So I come down here, highlight the layers, go to normal, lighten, and bam, you have star trails, basically. So if you had, a few hundred of these images, then you could get the full circles and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Well, all right, my friends, that really is, those are the sets of examples that I had for us tonight. I'm going to stop
Hey,
sharing.
hey, Mike, are you
Yeah,
able to go back to the camera just for a second to ask? Before that's
yeah,
the way Rodrigo does it.
for sure. So,
Now that Rodrigo's here. Hey,
yeah, yeah.
Rodrigo.
Hey,
Hey, Rodrigo, how you doing?
good. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Rodrigo, this was pretty good. Mike did an amazing job. We're recording it, so you can always
Oh,
watch it again.
yeah, because I was a last minute doing homework project that, well, my son didn't tell me until now. So
That
I cannot.
happens.
We need to go into Walmart to buy the pieces that he needs and all this. So like, oh, man. You know. Oh, well.
Been there.
Well, you're
Yeah.
here now.
Yeah. It's good that that it's recorded because then I can watch it.
yeah. So I did an example of an HARGB blend,
Yeah.
and now I'm wondering if I can reproduce it because I saved. Let's just see what the status is, and we can decide if it might still be good. So there's that.
Yeah.
That's that. I think that has. Okay, so Rodrigo, oh, hang on a sec. I'm sorry. I just realized I'm not sharing my screen. Let's try this. Let's just share the whole enchilada. There we go. Okay,
There it
so
is.
here we
See it?
have, so Suresh, this is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here is the color image.
Yeah.
This is the red channel from my H alpha image.
Yeah.
This is the red channel from that color image.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to take the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the red channel from the HA image lines up with this guy. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to select all, copy it, come over here and paste it.
Yeah.
And then I want to be able to see, there we go. I want to align it. So again, this is kind of a, I should warn you, Rodrigo, that we're all friends here, okay? We agreed on that. So so be kind. This is relatively new to me. I'm just kind of learning my way here. All right, so that's pretty well lined up. So I'm going to flatten.
Wait, before you do that,
Yeah.
don't flatten. I'm gonna show you something really quick in there. Go back and create, make your layer 100%, the
Oh
top
yeah.
one,
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Geez, I forgot about that.
and now go down and just choose the blending mode on the first one. It's still the first one, you know. So and choose the blending out to exclusion. I think is or difference. No difference. Go to difference.
Oh yeah.
And then now you when they match totally well, then it's gonna become black. You
Love
know.
it.
Yeah.
That
Now,
yeah.
if for any reason there is some um, small deformation, you look at the border of the image, and then you click on the border of the image,
Hmm.
and then you will activate the free transformation. And
Oh, sure.
yeah,
That's a great trip. Great tip. Okay, so let's say here.
yeah, and to touch the blue border that you were here, because then or you can use free transformation. That what it's gonna do is now you can take individual pieces of the image to actually make them match. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they click in the white what is called. There is a white in the middle of the image. There is a white square.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Oh, no, in the sorry, at the border of the image. Yeah, any white square in there to the edge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that
The
touch
boundary. You're
that.
talking about
Yeah,
the boundary.
yeah, in the boundary. Just click in there.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
if
Look at
you see
that.
the top, your top, there is a check mark, a circle with no, and then is top of the
Oh,
frame.
top, up, Mike, up. Go
Oh,
up
Yep.
higher,
Oh, up
Mike.
here.
Right there.
yeah,
Yep.
not the next one, not the next one. Click there.
Oh.
That is your free transformation. So now you can move the squares, so
Oh.
you can change any position just in that area.
Wow. I'm glad we're recording this. That's excellent. Okay. Okay. That's a great. Yeah, because this is so important, right? To get this exactly matched up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
I'm
Okay.
gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch this like 5 times
I
after
know,
this goes.
dude. I've got like pages of notes on like flow charts and everything with this. So, all right. So I got that. I don't think I need to flatten it, right? I can just copy this top layer, right?
Well, I mean, if you when you are ready in there, you just click the check mark, so it's going to apply this to the layers, and now you can flatten the image to me. But
Yeah.
right now, if you are blending the hydrogen alpha with the color, so in this case, you may want to add 90% hydrogen alpha and 10% color. So you change your blending mode. Instead of having the opacity to 100, you can put, suppose, 90% because your hydrogen alpha is on top. You can do a 90% or 80. Usually, when I have done that, I do between 80 to 90 to create a new red
Okay.
channel.
Okay.
So you are pulling most of the hydrogen alpha, but they still have the reflection
Oh,
reddish portion, because sometimes it's not only hydrogen alpha, you have some
yeah.
reflection in red.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Let's do that. So I've got it at 80%.
Yeah.
So I will
Then you can flatten, and then you get your new red channel.
there we go. All right. So we're gonna go flatten, select all, copy back to here. You know, Suresh, it occurs to me that let's do this and then we'll
You go to channel, yeah, and then yeah, and then you copy that on top of that.
boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. And I'm just gonna go over here to camera raw filter, do a little color adjustment. Whoops.
Yeah.
Try that. Camera raw filter. So Suresh, it occurred to me, I mean, this is kind of in terms of a format for um, these sessions.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I mean, again, we're all friends. So love that. Yeah, I mean, so Rodrigo, this is how I was just showing the group how I've begun to do this, but I'm just, just scratching the surface of this. So if you have a presentation, I'd love to see it as well. I'm sure with some of the others.
Hey, Rodrigo, remember you did a presentation for us a few months ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you mind doing that again if we can record it? Because we weren't
Sure.
able to record that, remember?
Yeah. Yeah. There were, but I think if I recall, where we were doing was uh, working with images to combine a starless image with the star, and then making the nebula pop up, and making the putting the stars behind the nebula actually instead of on top, so the
Yep.
nebula will pop. Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, we can do it for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in that.
Do you want to do
Um,
that in like 2 weeks, like the
Yeah,
26th or something? Does that work for
yeah,
you?
that will be fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll do
yeah,
we'll do 7 o'clock again on the 26th.
yeah. So yeah, that'd be awesome. And Suresh, just for the thought piece my mind. I mean, stuff like this would be super helpful if we could do a bit where like someone puts up an image and then other people like guide them through how to, edit it.
I've
Yeah,
totally thought of that. I'm not sure how it would go though,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we all do stuff different ways.
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And there is, like I don't have Camera Raw installed in my Photoshop, but when I change the colors, basically what I do is do selective color command,
Yeah,
and then I can play with the individual colors of the image, with the red and make the red more, add a little bit more cyan or
yeah.
yellow or to my colors, So, and also have a couple of apps added, no apps, but the action tools or filters. One is called, it's called from a website that is free. It's called Deep Sky Colors.
No. Oh, wow.
And
Deep sky
then
colors.
it's called Deep Sky Colors. You go there and they have one that is called Hasta la Vista Green. That, of course, you can do that in PixInsight by going to the color correction and choose which one, the green or the red or whatever you want to reduce. But over there, if you are there, you can use Hasta la Vista Green, and it will actually remove the green cast of your images.
Oh,
Oh, like SCNR and
Yes, like a
PixInsight.
CNR, exactly. Of course, CNR is a bit more powerful because you can also do it with red and you can also do it with the blue, no? And this
Hmm.
one it will only tackle the green. But it's a free filter, so
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. You know what I
Well,
can do is
worth checking
I can
out.
run through this maybe 4 weeks from now. I can run through my LRGB process,
Oh, yes,
and
please.
you guys can comment as I go through it as to what you guys would do. We could
Oh,
try
that'd be,
that.
yeah.
What do you
I
guys
just
think?
think
Could that
that, I
be
mean, this group
worthwhile?
has so much knowledge that,
Well,
yeah.
that's the whole idea for why we're doing this. Because we
yeah.
all have our ways of getting to the end result we like.
Yeah, and of course,
And
PixInsight is getting better and better with all the new scripts. All the Serie
yep.
Astros is kind of cutting, like the red channel stuff that you are showing now. You can use the Serie Astro H RGB to do the same thing.
Oh, man.
I know Phil talked about running through that suite, the SETI Astro suite.
Yes,
Um,
and the Galaxy that just sent the IC342
yeah,
actually add the hydrogen alpha that way, and it's basically the same. You gotta create a red channel first with the hydrogen alpha and the red, and in the Serie Astro you can also do exactly the same thing, but all automatic. The only problem is your picture has to be very well aligned. If your hydrogen alpha
mhm.
channel is not, you get the spots like the image that you were showing when you have issues aligning the channels. So you want to make sure that your channels are aligned, you know.
So if you have that issue, Rodrigo, would you use Photoshop to
Yes,
realign them, or would you use PixInsight?
well, if I get the three stacks, I actually have a program that is called Registar, and actually it's very powerful. And I can, suppose in my image that I show, actually, I took pictures with my 8 inches RC with the camera, the 22600, and combined it with the color taking with a 10 inches RC with a flat with a reducer and the 294. So
Oh
actually
my
that
God.
register and actually scales up the pictures. That's why I
And it
like that
actually
software.
worked. It
Yeah.
actually worked.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So
Yeah, I think in terms of like mixing layers, mixing apertures, I think you're much further ahead than anybody else that I know in that stuff. I think you might be the only one that does it, actually. I don't know
no,
anybody else that would. I don't know, Nick Johnson, maybe. Have you tried that? Is Nick still here?
No, but I think Craig does. I don't he's a frequent at ELO, but I don't know if he's in the
Craig the doctor.
yeah,
He
sounds
comes in
right.
that van. Comes
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
van.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, and the
yeah.
program is the only thing that you need, and you blend your layers, and the that program, I don't know, PixInsight can do scaling and your images to another image, not only register but scale them automatically. I don't know if PixInsight can do that, but I found this register very easy to use. I bought it when it was cheap. I don't know how much it costs now, maybe $60.
I
But
don't know, Phil, have you seen any tools that will do that in PixInsight? I don't think of there are a way of doing that. There is a way of doing that.
Not that I'm aware of.
That sounds really powerful. And
Yeah.
you can
yeah,
shoot with different apertures.
yeah. I mean, just put it away. The picture of the Shark Nebula. I took a picture, a wide field with a 135 millimeter camera lens attached to a 294, and then I took pictures with the rest of the shark and the Gulf Cave, and I register them, and I add the shark taken with the rasa to the 135 millimeter image, the Wolf Cave also,
That,
and just blend them
that's
in.
amazing. Because in theory, Phil, you have that side by side setup. You could conceivably use your refractor, shoot something in one shot color, and then the other scope you could shoot narrow band, and then you
Yes.
could use the software potentially to get the
Right.
stars out of the one and put it in the other one.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I really like it, and I feel like it's unique. The only downside of this program is doesn't do fit files, so everything has to be TIFF files,
Uh,
Uh, but
That's fine. TIFFs are
but
fine.
yeah, but beyond that, it can do linear and non-linear also, and things like that. So it's a very, very powerful program because your wide field becomes high resolution if you could combine long focal length with short focal length.
Deep sky colors, huh? Is that what
Well,
you called it?
no, deep sky colors is to get the filters for Photoshop to do the hasta la vista green, for example, has also white balance and
Oh, the
other one.
SCNR thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's this other one called?
It's called Registar. Kind of Registack, but instead of called Registack, Registar.
I'm gonna look that up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that
Register.
image, Rodrigo, you posted. I was like, God, that's an amazing image.
Thank you.
Yeah,
He's
that was
got
like
he's got
A-plus.
hundreds. He's got hundreds of them like that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Register. I found it. Orija Imaging is the
Yes.
company. Is this free?
I don't think so. I paid like $60 years ago. I don't know. Maybe it's
I
free
don't
now.
see. I don't see it anywhere asking for money.
Oh, then maybe it's free now.
Let's see. 64-bit. Download register. Yeah, it's not asking for any money. Oh wait. Hang on. Maybe I should have done that. The current single use price is $99.
Yeah, well, they increased the price. I mean, I bought that program, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. And I paid like 50, $60. I guess they
Mm-hmm.
increased it, but I think it's worth. I don't. If wouldn't be for that program, there is a bunch of things that I could do in Photoshop with the free transformation, but it will be a pain, because this actually makes it perfect match.
Wow.
It's you can download it. I assume that they have a trial version that you can check.
I wonder if they'll ever write a script for PixInsight.
Well, that would be great.
Well, if they're charging everybody $99, maybe not. They're not going to want to do it.
Well, you think about the Blur Exterminator and all the Blur family are like that. It was what, $99 or something like that, and then they reduce the
The
price.
first one's 100, and then everyone after that 50.
Yeah,
Essentially.
so it's not any different, you know. So I think they have kind of a particular price for all of them, you know.
So I
But
suppose I could download it, but to get a key, I'm gonna have to pay the $99 to get the key, right? That's what
yeah,
I
I,
suppose.
I I assume I think what will happen is you can use it, and I will create a watermark in your picture, and
Oh,
if you don't have the program, but at least you can see how it works, and if you like it, then you can pay the $99. To me, it's worth for all the stuff that I have done. Of course, I didn't pay $99 in that time, but considering everything has gone up, including all these tools that we have seen, and well, it is what it is, no?
awesome. Thanks for the
Will be
tips.
will be great to have a script. I really would love to that because then you don't have to keep going back and forth between programs,
Looks like Nick Johnson has to leave. Just FYI, he's still here. If you
Yep.
want to say bye to him, bye, Nick.
I think he dropped. Yep.
All right. So are we gonna cover anything else? Are we done, Mike?
Fresh, that's it. Yeah, no, that was a great. Appreciate all the interaction and stuff.
Mike,
And
this is awesome.
yeah,
You
but
always
that's,
do an amazing job.
well,
That was really
fine.
useful. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
for
gonna be
sure.
sad when you move away, Mike. I'm gonna be really sad.
hey man, I'll still be here. You know,
Well, you still can do stuff online.
absolutely.
Yeah, virtual
Eh,
Mike, magic Mike over the internet.
Well, no, like I said at the beginning, it's Fresh. I mean, it's just the stuff that you do to bring people together and to keep the momentum going is truly, truly inspiring. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. Do you have any other people you think I should add to, try to get into this What's Up chat or into these sessions? Anybody have any ideas on that? I don't mind adding people. I just don't want to. I don't want to add 700 people for obvious reasons. But if you've got people that you think would benefit or would want to participate, maybe Craig might be one that potentially could do that. I can ask him.
Yeah.
But if you got any ideas on who else would you think should be a good add to this group, let me know.
Yeah.
I got to
All right,
bounce
Mike.
too. Thanks so much, Mike, everyone.
Mike,
That was
Mike,
super helpful.
Mike, will you send me the link and I'll put it on my, or you
Yeah.
can even put it in the PixInsight group chat. Either way,
Yeah. No, I'll send it to you so
And
you
then-
can put it on the YouTube.
awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Great.
All right, guys, really appreciate it, Mike. This is awesome.
You bet.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right, take care. Have a good night, guys.
Take
Good
care.
night. Bye.
Bye bye.